Hello and welcome to Contractor Success Tips. Today's guest is Todd Pohlig from Pohlig Custom Homes.
All right. Well, let's get this conversation going. So my name is Ed Earl, the Zen Builder. I'm here with my partner, Paul Sanneman, who's the founder of Residential Contractor Services Group. And today I am very excited to have with us Todd Pohlig of Pohlig Custom Homes. We've just spent a few minutes talking with him. Todd filled out our business assessment that we usually ask our prospective clients to fill out. And I commended Todd. I said that was literally the best business assessment that I have ever seen in all of my years of coaching. So, and Todd cautioned me and said, "Well, it hasn't always been that way, and we're still far from perfect." But Todd, why don't we start by?
I'll make a quick comment here. I've been doing this as long as Todd has about 35 years, and I'm with you, Ed. I have very rarely seen somebody as successful as Todd. So I would like to commend you, sir. And now what you need to do is share with our audience how you did this amazing feat, because it's not easy.
Right. And maybe, Todd, give us a little background. Obviously, we haven't told the listeners anything about what you and your brother have created there at Pohlig Custom Homes. So.
Sure, be happy to. So out of high school, my brother worked for a carpenter, a rough carpentry, and over time, that fellow mentored my brother. And if he came in on Saturdays, and he would teach him the business. So right out of high school, my brother wound up in the carpentry business, so the rough carpentry side of the business. I went to Villanova University, graduated in '72, and played Army for a couple of years. It's back when they had the draft numbers, and I decided while I was in the service, I really wanted to get in the construction business. But I had summer jobs around the business as a rough carpenter myself. Electrician's helper 1 year, labor, throwing out drywall, through the year working for a local builder. And I really liked the business. I can point to two things that really came in prospect. One, we went down to the fellow that I was working for as a rough carpenter. He was building a house on the side, and we showed up at this little twin house. Foundation was there, lumber was there, and I remember getting started. And at the end of the day, wrapping up the cords and looking back and saying, "Wow, it was a small house. We had a double crew, and it was framed." And there was something about seeing the creation of that, something that wasn't there in the morning, that was there when I was wrapping up at night, that struck me pretty hard. And then another time, I was framing up on the second floor, and a builder came in and was showing this young couple around the house. And I said, "That doesn't even look like a job. It looks like he's having fun." So those two things were a signal to me while I was in the service that I wanted to get out and be a builder. I didn't know you needed money at the time, by the
way. Hey, Todd, to put this in perspective, let me ask you a couple of questions about your company to show how smart you are. Okay. So a couple of things. What's your current volume?
We're doing this year. We're going to be doing about 45 million in sales.
Okay, 45 million in sales, and your houses are gorgeous. 45 million. What's your average gross profit?
Our gross profit. There's two ways of accounting. Our accounting, it's about 19%. If I go to NAHB's way of accounting, it's 23%.
All right. So I'm going to say you got to make at least 10. So that's $4 million a year. So you're doing okay. So
yes. Yeah, we got a super duper team here.
Cool.
We really do.
So I imagine a lot of builders watching this podcast would love to make, $4 million a year and have a very successful company and all these employees and stuff. So can you tell us, how do you get from a carpenter to a very successful $40 million company, and how did you do it?
Well, first of all, I was I had a good background from my dad. My dad never graduated from high school. I was the first guy to go to college in the family, but he really knew people. and he knew doing things right was more important than anything. And I had no problem asking for help. When I got started, I asked all kinds of questions of everybody I could bump into. The guy I was a laborer for, when I got out of the service, I said, "Hey, I want to be a builder." He says, "You can't until you go interview these 5 people," which I did. And out of those connections, I always had a place that I could go ask further questions. So I was always amazed at how helpful everybody was for just asking questions. So that was huge. The other thing is getting started. I bumped in. My dad knew a couple realtors who had a lot. It's not exactly what I wanted to do, but to get into business, I partnered with these 2 guys that had some lots and found other lots, and we split profit. So I wasn't able to get to the niche I wanted to, which was the custom home side, for a number of years. But still, it provided a way to get started. And I'll never forget that. One of those guys I interviewed, by the way, is on an outside board of directors that I have right now. So about
you seem to take advice really well. So one of the keys, it seems like you've always listened to other people. Tell us a little bit about your board and how you got that going.
Yeah, so it was right around 1980. Things were pretty slow back then. My brother was at some kind of party or something. One of the older guys asked if we have a board of advisors, which we didn't. So we invited him in, and through that we started every other month having a coffee meeting in the morning. And we picked 3 other business people that were sort of kind of retired business people. They weren't doing it for the money. We were paying them a couple $100 a meeting. It was nothing. But they were interested in passing on their business experience to a couple of guys that really wanted to learn. And since then, we still have an outside board of directors. Now, a couple of things came out of that. First, I had no background in business at all. And so they started asking for a business plan. And then we had to report to them on how we were doing versus our business plan. So, and I really liked this whole idea of the business plan. I really took to that. So we spend a lot of time on planning. Our business plan is pretty robust, and we meet quarterly right now and go over our business plan. And it's been very helpful having those guys.
Todd, I have a question for you. How big does a business have to be to have a business plan?
Back then, we were probably only doing a couple of houses. It was really their generosity in passing along an outside perspective that obviously is a couple of kids we didn't have. The whole idea of the economy, the housing statistics to go look for, and some of those sort of things. So
that's something that even any of our listeners, even if they've only 1 guy or 2 guys, they could still put together a board of directors, right? And a business plan.
Yep, and it's very helpful. Right now, we meet, like I said, quarterly. We meet in our office, and it's only we're done by 10:30. When we start at 9. But again, what it forces me to do is get up in the helicopter and look how things are doing versus our plan. So it's sort of making me do my homework on the business side to report. So that's the advantage of it. Those guys pass along information, but the real advantage is it gets me out of the trees in the forest. It makes me look big picture.
And that is virtually no cost to you, right?
No, we pay those guys right now, since they've been around a while, we pay them $1,000 a meeting. And they don't do it for the money.
Right. So I'm looking at your house. What's your average size bill, Todd?
So our average contract right now is probably in the $2.5 million range. We do some contracts as much as $10 million. And we're doing one at $6 million right now. But I think our average right now is about 3.5 million.
And how do you get those clients?
For the most part, referrals from past clients, and that's another thing that I think is really key. We have been developing relationships. Every one of our clients we look at as a marketing beacon out there for us. Again, we're right outside of Philadelphia in a very small area. I would say it's 60 square miles, and we've built over 600 houses now for people in this one area, and they're all in the same social circles. Our next buyer is coming from that same social circle. So keeping clients happy is the number one goal. Money kind of comes about because of that, but our focus of our company is on taking care of the clients. That's the number one thing.
Do you get work from architects, or do you hire the architects? That's one of our challenges ahead of us, is to get more work from architects. For the most part, we bring the client to the architect and get that started. So I got to ask a simple question as a big fan. Do you ever actually go out and talk to architects? I mean, actually, because you've obviously got a killer reputation. You have an amazing product. You have a trademark and a brand that's incredible. Do you ever go out and visit architects, or do you wait for them to call you?
So that's my brother's end of the business, and we've separated the business along our personalities. Don is actively talking to architects, and because as we transition here and we look out to 2024, we want to be mostly high-end custom builders via architects. So that's one of our challenges. To date, half our business right now is our lifestyle product. We're doing a project that's 198 units that is mid-rise. That's it. And there's 30 units per building in there. And we're on our last building right now. And the average price on those units, by the way, is $950,000. So they're very sophisticated inside.
Nice.
We've taken our finished trays that we have in our custom homes, and we're using those trays to finish out these units. They average 2,200 square foot, and like I said, in the 950 range. So we'll be closing down this product we're on our last building, so we're like a couple years away, and that project's going to be finished.
Well,
so,
as a short comment, we've been working with architects for a long time. One of the things we found about working with architects, and you're a big planner, so you'd understand this, is it takes a long time. I mean, it takes, let's say, I have to say they've already got a girlfriend and it's not you, right? In a lot of cases. Right. And so it takes about 6 months to a year, and you go meet them the first time and the second time, usually 6, 7, 8 meetings. But with the kind of track record you've got, and I'm sure occasionally you could give a house to an architect, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The houses you have that don't come with architects, you just give them to architects, right?
Correct. So
do they give you a lot of work in return?
Not enough, and that's what we want to.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, you might need, we can talk about it later, but you might need to start, dating some girls or guys, whatever, that start returning the favor, right?
Yes. Yep. We need to do that. We have not been good at that, and we hate to bid, or we can't get the kind of margins out of bid work, and we would much prefer to offer pre-construction services to the architect and the client, try to develop a relationship with the client, and provide some service at the same time, pricing, for instance.
Now, do you do mostly cost plus, I assume?
We do about 60% cost plus work right now.
Okay. So when you go into architects, do you think, I know one of the things we've helped with people transition from what you're doing to getting work from architects, and it's always hard because you're making whatever 23% margin. And then, when you go to an architect, you may have to cut it down to 15 to be competitive. Are you willing to do that?
Well, that's what we don't want to do. So we want to bring these clients to them, and along with pre-construction services, get the relationship going where it doesn't go out to bid. and we can show our value.
Right.
So that's the game plan, is to try to get that to work. And we've brought clients to architects, and they go to competitive bid, and we don't get the project. And of course, that's a big disappointment.
Right. Especially when you bring the project to the architect, right?
Yes.
Here's a $3 million house. I will tell you, this is sort of an aside, Todd. You have to pick the architects carefully, because some architects have this ethical, moral value that they learned in architectural school, that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the client to get 3 bids, even though you brought them the job. And the key is that you never bring those kind of architects' jobs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we have a lot to learn.
That's interesting. So again, now you've got a lot of employees. Like what you said?
37 employees.
Okay, 37 employees. How do you attract all these great employees?
So I'll give you a couple of statistics, because I just looked them up. Our average tenure is 13 years.
Wow.
So let me see if I can get there's a couple of them that are kind of interesting. We've got 17 of those employees are overhead employees. The rest of those we bill to the job. So we subcontract everything, but we have our superintendents, assistant superintendents, and labor belong to us. We've got 14 of our 37 been with us over 15 years, and 9 of those have been with us 20 years plus.
So question: how do you mentioned earlier? How do you treat? You said like an intern program. How do you attract those quality people? Because I know everybody would like to know that.
Yeah. So we have a company culture that's very strong, and I actively work on the company culture. So a couple things. They got to be very positive, so if you don't have a really good work ethic and you're not positive, you won't be around long. You don't feel comfortable here. So again, the way we attract those people, I think, is just our reputation and our brand that's out there is how we get them. We do go to a local trade school, Williamson Trade School, and pick up internships from there. I also, keeps me kind of something I like to do, at Villanova University, they have a engineering entrepreneurship program that I do a guest lecture to juniors. And from that, we've get some interns to come in through from that as well. So we have some internships kind of work here. We generally do a paid internship, but it's not a lot of money. But they get to look at us, and we get to look at them and see if it's a good fit.
Now, do you do any testing or anything like that?
No. We've been recommended to use, there's two out there. We've never used them. One's Personalysis. It was a name of one, and this weekend I learned of another one. But no, we have not done that. We basically just interview here. Multiple interviews, though. Myself, if it's somebody on the operations side, which I'm at, it would be my right-hand man, Wayne, myself, and our controller, for instance, would interview. So we'd have these people would go through 3 interviews.
Now, question, when how you manage your jobs, let's say you got a $3 million project. How many people do you have from your company on the job versus subcontractors, and how is it structured?
Yep. So in the field, there's a superintendent who's running the job out there. They generally have an assistant with them and a laborer. So usually it's a team of 3. The superintendent might be doing 2 jobs and have 2 assistants, 1 on each job. So an assistant staying there. The superintendent on the larger jobs, there's only 1 for the most part. If there's a house next door, he might be doing 2, that kind of thing.
Right.
So the superintendent is responsible for quality and scheduling. The project manager here in the office is responsible for subcontracting the work and the money. So, so we've got it split that way. The guy in the field generally is responsible for quality, which is really important, and schedule.
Now, who handles the architect and the client?
That would be our project manager that's here at the office. Okay. So we've got a couple of project managers here. In fact, we've got 2 young guys that we're trying to bring up to speed pretty quick because our senior project manager is going to be retiring here shortly. And so
how many projects can a project manager handle from the office?
Again, decide that, depends on the size of the project, but generally a couple projects. So
this brings up the point. Do you use any web-based software, Buildertrend, Co-Construct?
Yeah, so we're switching over to Buildertrend right now from our current project management system. We're going over to Buildertrend, and we're also changing over to QuickBooks at the same time. So one of the things we're going to be going through here will be painful over the next couple of months is that transition. But we started that transition.
Okay. And did you have your own software before that? Were you on Sage or something like that, or was
Sage? We were on Sage and the Procore.
Right.
Yep. And so we're switching.
And why'd you go from Procore to Buildertrend? Just curious.
Again, that's my brother's half of the business, so I'm not sure all the ins and outs on that. But I think Procore was deeper than we needed, and I don't think we were using it very properly. So we also belong to a Builder 20 club. You probably know what they are. They're from the National Association of Home Builders, and in our club, we've got a couple of our builders are on Buildertrend. So we're gonna. They're helping us as well.
Great. So, what do you have, if you had 3 or 4 pieces of advice to give to all the, young builders that want to be you when they grow up, what would they be?
Build relationships, solid relationships. Stay with people through the Home Builders Association. There's a great way to get involved with industry and understanding what's going on in your industry, not only a national, state, and then local. You can get a feel for what's going on. But, bankers belong to that. There's all kinds of introductions to other subcontractors, getting the right people that can work with you as teammates. The other thing is we work as a team on everything. Our subcontractors are teammates for us. We're trade partners. We don't try to make money off of people. We try to make money with people. So that's another sort of big picture item. If you do things right and do the right things, it seems like the money sort of comes. It's not about the money. It's about doing things right and trying to grow people from within. Somebody worked as an assistant secretary on the construction side. She's now our marketing manager. So taking each of your employees, finding out what they like, let them grow in the way that they like, and they can really take the business. So it's just kind of working with people and trying to let them.
Right. Do the business. It's sort of about building the team, I guess, right?
It is. And again, that culture is important, very, very important.
Just a couple side notes. How do you do selections and how do you do marketing?
Okay, so selections, we're one of the few builders around here that actually have selection coordinators in-house. So even if there's a decorator involved with these houses, we found out on the custom side, if you can't get the answers, you can't build it.
Right.
So when we sign an agreement of sale, there's also, we tell people, their part of this is to make these selections on time. And so we've got a schedule for them. We go over that bi-weekly with them. In fact, it turns orange and red when they get behind schedules. And then we start to have a conversation. Do you really want to pay for extra general conditions at the end? How can we help facilitate this? Again, every client's different, and we we got to respect each client, but we tried very, very hard to get the selections on time so that we can build a house. And those selection coordinators are everybody. Half our office is working, by the way, virtually now, but they were here at the office and helped those clients hold their hands, take them to places that they needed to.
Well, speaking of selection coordinators, before you get into marketing a little bit and social media, do you do it by CSI codes? Is that the way you break things out?
Yes. Yep.
And what do you put into Division 1? Do you put your supervision in Division 1 or not?
Yes, supervision's in there as well. So there's, again, that's my brother's half of the business, but the the breakdown 16 divisions, CSI code, and then on indirect cost is supervision. Supervision and labor is just like a 2x4 on a job. So they're estimated and they go right in the estimate.
So all your project manager, not your internal project managers, but the superintendent and their assistant and the labor are all above the line in Division 1, right?
Correct. Yep. That's correct.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. So is your project manager above the line, or is he considered overhead?
We have a number in the estimate for that. If our client starts taking that guy into Never Never Land, we sit down with them. We don't mind doing it for the people, but they're going to have to pay. And it sort of becomes it's a deduction from our overhead.
Right. So you basically you don't give up your gross profit to supervision a lot of the time. That's how you manage such a great gross profit, right?
Right, that's correct.
Cool. Last question a bit. How are you on social media? Do you think it makes sense? What kind of marketing? You say you're a marketing person. What does he or she do?
Yeah, so she's very responsive. By the way, photography is huge. We think photography is very big and helps our clients see what we can do and understand what we can do. So we think that.
Speaking of photography, Todd, have you ever used Matterport? Do you use a Matterport camera?
That doesn't sound familiar to me. Again, I'm not in the detail side of that. So, but we have somebody on social media. We make posts every week. We're posting stuff. I think, again, you see how old I am? That's why I'm getting out of this business. But in terms of Instagram and post and those kind of things, we do have people that are doing that on a consistent basis for us.
Great.
I've got one last question, which kind of ties in with your age. Obviously, you and your brother are looking to, at some point here in the near future, transition out of the business. Share with us a little bit about your transition strategy. I know that you have one that's in place, but a little bit about how you came about to that strategy and what your approach is here for your eventual transition out of your business.
Sure. It seemed to me on a couple of, by the way, I had a number of mentors that had helped me along the way. And a number of those guys, when they decided to retire, it just went woof. So if they were going to end, all of a sudden the people working at the office were leaving. I mean, it was, when you end, you don't take too much with you in this business. If you're in the custom building business, it's about the next job, so to speak. Right. So a way around that is to build a team and transition over time. And therefore, you can really ramp up the business. Like the four of us right now, 4 partners, my brother, myself, and these 2 younger guys. So we're really cranking the business right now. The idea is we're splitting the profit. They're leaving their portion of the business process. They're leaving in retained earnings, allowing my brother and I to empty our capital account on the way out. So you need to have so much money in retained earnings and be able to operate the business. So over time, they're replacing our capital account. The advantage of that is it's not tax, it's future, they're not buying part of the business, they're earning their way into the business. Right. So it's not a taxable event for them.
So their stock goes up and your stock goes down, right?
Yes. Yep.
And it's eventually, with the end, they have controlling interest and you have no interest and it goes away. I mean, you go away and they keep the business, right?
Correct. In In the meantime, we didn't have to discount what we had in the business. We're able to get it all out, which is
Right.
rather than having it go away in the last couple of jobs.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
So one last question. This is it. If you have like one, this is the big one. If you have one piece of advice, if people don't remember anything from this podcast except one thing, you're talking to a lot of people that are going to be just like you when they grow up. What would that be?
Seek and pay attention to advice.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Thanks for being on the show, Ed.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Todd. I think you've shared with us just a lot of wisdom, and now I know the story behind that really exceptional business assessment that you sent us, and understand the reasoning behind that. So, well, Todd, I want to thank you for your time in joining us here for this podcast. I'm sure that all of our listeners are going to get a lot of benefit out of it. And just want to thank you again, and wish you and Pohlig Homes the best of luck here going into the future.
Great. I enjoyed. It's a great business. I enjoyed talking about it.
Right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.